Are you satisfied with your understanding of sustainability? If you are not, imagine a journey together, a pluralistic one, with academia, innovators, startups, NGOs, all looking for solutions to the greatest challenge of our time. My name is Samuele Tini, and this is the Sustainability Journey. Welcome to another episode. Today we are going to discuss the intersection of gender, climate justice, and the role of emerging markets. And we do it with somebody who has been at the forefront of grassroots movement. She's fostering now change as director of She Change Climate. So I want to give a warm welcome to Mamta Borgoyary, who is the director of She Change Climate, and she joins us today. Thank you so much, Mamta, for being with us.
Thank you, Samuel. It's a pleasure to have this conversation with you today.
And Mamta, you have done a lot. You have worked a lot in India. You are talking with us almost from Delhi. So we want to discuss a bit, who is Mamta? What is your sustainability journey? How have you become a leader in this field?
So I am, I am a mother of three, one son, one daughter, and a dog. Very much a nature person. I was born in a small city in India. I'm the first of the three sisters that we have, and I was raised by a feminist father who believed in the power of women. And so that's where I come from. I was trained, I'm trained in economics. I'm an economist by training. And a large part of my earlier year, I started with environment economics. I did a lot of action research. And there was always this desire in me to see, what am I doing to really change the life of people? Am I really doing something that makes a difference? And I remember that this was from the start, that this was always with me, that every action of mine, am I making a difference in the life of somebody? So the first 15 years of my life, I spent on action research and environment, understanding and going deep into research to understand sustainability and forest conservation. I was part of different initiatives here in India, in looking at how women and their livelihoods are dependent on agriculture. I was part of understanding how when the Forest Rights Act was being implemented, there were all these villagers who lived on forest lands, and the lands were under threat. I spent a large part of my life actually living with these in these villages and understanding what kind of rehabilitation that is required, what rights, land rights mean to them, and and how closely associated their everyday daily life is with nature. So, I actually had the privilege of spending a large part of my life at the grassroots. And then, I got a bit frustrated because research meant sitting behind the desk and I was getting restless. And I remember my professor, who I consider my guru, Dr. Gopal Kadikuti, then told me that you should really work at the grassroots. And he introduced me to the civil society in India. And my life has never been the same since then. 10 years back, I joined this organization which works with women and children. And I got the opportunity to actually be part of different relief work, particularly during heat and also floods and earthquakes as part of my journey. I also got the opportunity to work with women at the grassroots in terms of witnessing how resilient and strong they are. And I have to tell you, Samuel, I have seen both despair and hope at the grassroots that climate change can bring. I have seen how women and children are disproportionately impacted. And I've also seen how women have actually come at the forefront and led just climate action movement. So I'm very grateful that I got this direct hands-on experience. It is my deep desire to be able to transform what my learnings from the grassroots into something which can be really, really meaningful and make a change in the lives of the women. I see my role at She Changes Climate exactly that, to kind of make policies, advocate for policies that are more caters to those who have been marginalized, colonized, excluded from the entire sustainability journey, whereas they are the ones who are most impacted.
And it's really, I mean, I can relate. Being at the grassroots here in Africa, working every day with the communities, supporting farmers to become more adapt and resilient, not to change. It's really resonate the work and the struggle that sometimes we have to undergo, and especially women and children. And my question is really, as an advocate for gender justice, and especially in this context of climate change and work, so which are the challenges that you have seen women and children face? And which are the some initiatives that you have done or you're still doing with your organization to support that?
I would want to start with that we all understand and recognize that climate change affects everyone. But what we do not talk about much is that it does not affect everyone equally. And those that are vulnerable, those that are marginalized, are really at a larger loss when floods, when disasters, when the climate change, extreme heat affects them. I want to start with few data, some statistics to make it more relevant, our conversation more relevant today. Now, the UN estimates that 80% of people displaced by climate change are women. And then last year's devastating floods in Pakistan left about more than 6 lakh Pakistani women deprived access to healthcare. They were forced to give birth under the open sky. And then if you look at Bangladesh, 77% of those who drowned were women. India, Bangladesh, Nepal, the entire, particularly the global south, women are disproportionately impacted. At the same time, there is no way, there is very limited method or approach to allow their voices to go into the policy making or into the sustainability journey. And therefore, I very strongly believe, and that is what She Changes Climate as a movement is all about, that it is important that we bring the voices of women leaders in all their diversity for a just and urgent climate action. The second aspect is that climate action does not function in silos. It encapsulates and affects everything. The intersectionality between climate change and gender, it is important to understand that. It impacts health, it impacts education, it impacts basic infrastructure. A flood, everything is lost, right? However, even in the sector, we have this approach of working in silos, of kind of looking at issues from one perspective. Climate change affects each of these sectors, and this is not discussed. And therefore, one of the important things that in the sustainability journey is to understand the intersectionality of climate and gender, and to also understand the intersectionality of several areas with climate change. That is one thing that She Changes Climate is also very closely working on, to create more awareness on how climate and gender are very, very interlinked, and how the intersectionality piece, which is often not talked about, which often not translates into policies, need also to be accounted for.
It's really important because you have noticed that you cannot save the planet, to use a slogan, if you leave 50% of it behind. It's a bizarre thinking that you can think we can do this without considering the people that are suffering. So it's really...
I mean, the last since the first COP, we have only had 6 women presidents. 6. We are 51% of the population. We have 6 women presidents. And then if you look at statistics, last year COP, we had a reduction of female members in the country delegation from 36 to 34%. And then if you look at the national delegations, which are very important in terms of providing or leading the change or leading the negotiations at the COP, we had less than 20% women in national delegations. Where are the voices of the women? And I think that is exactly what She Changes Climate is advocating for, that women in all their diversity across levels have to be part of the decision-making process.
It's really important. And also because witnessing my reality sometimes at the grassroots with the communities is not easy, and we strive slowly to really empower women even, and really want to understand, even though empowerment is a big word that sometimes is often overused. But I want to ask you this question now: how do you do it, in practical? How she changed climate? Which initiative also you are proud of that really you foster this vision?
We do it through different way, and how do we do it? We do it by influencing key players such as government, business, civil society. We do campaigning for public support. We raise awareness on social injustice and inequality. We collaborate with partners, both at global level and at the grassroots level. And most importantly, we amplify the voices of those who have been economically, socially marginalized, and most impacted, especially in the global south. They're different. So there are three major pillars through which we work. The first is policy advocacy, is basically looking at working and advocating for more women leadership at the COP and UNFCCC processes. How do you really bring voices of the women leaders into these processes? Every year we do an online summit, an annual online summit. Last year, just before COP, we got about 33 women leaders from 5 continents present what are the actions required, and talked about for a just transition. And the good part is also that within the COP presidency, there are very impactful, sincere, very strong-willed women leaders, and we work very closely with them. One of the things that we believe, if you provide women the agency, they will really bring solutions to the fore. They will really lead. She Changes Climate is also a movement to provide that agency to women leaders across the different sectors, across different levels. We work closely with the high-level women champions within the within the COP presidency, provide any kind of input that they require. We provide stories and solutions and voices from the field to them. We also do active public campaigning. We just a week before the EU elections started, we really did this whole campaigning to talk about why it is important for women who do not vote to come out and vote for women leaders who are pushing forward an active solution-based climate change policies. This is again that we are targeting that because we feel that unless and until politics, you cannot not have the political landscape talk about this. You really need to get the political landscape bringing in and change and into the conversation as equally as you want to do it at the grassroots. So we are targeting different levels. We have country networks. We have now about 7 country networks, most of them in the global south and some in global north. The idea is to create a platform where you bring women leaders and organizations which are women-led working on sustainability together, identify the gap, and provide them and support them with the agency that they require, whether it is capacity building, whether it is opportunities to voice their opinion in important decision-making processes, whether it is finance that they require so that they can lead their work. We are actively working with youth. We have youth ambassadors who are the voices of their country, and we try and support them to actively participate in the important decision-making platforms as well.
And it's very important because, as I always say, in the community, in the world, we need to bring everybody together. This is a common planet, a common effort. Despite the many effort, the many even differences, and the many culture and many stories that everybody has, the planet is one, and our destiny is one. And we cannot divide ourselves among. We cannot let the division be against our common good. So this is very, very important, and especially with the rising of the global south, the war, and these changings that are also in the political arena in our world of those years. I want to ask some question as you as also a leader and from your observatory in India, that is now, the biggest country and most populated country in the world, one of the two super countries of the future. In this changing world, what is the role that you see for a country like India and others? So you have also you have been named one of the top leaders, the top 10 leaders in India. So do you really see the sustainability journey shaping in one of the biggest democracy, even the biggest democracy of the world?
I will say one thing, that India is very serious about sustainability. India is very serious about clean environment, starting from the government to the corporate sector to the civil society sector. There is a keen intent and a huge effort to see how can we make the sustainability journey successful and real and actionable. Well, that is the truth. The other part of the truth is that we are an emerging economy. There are challenges of job, employment, growth. And it is this fine balance between growth and sustainability that I think we are chartering our way and trying to find a solution to do it in a just manner. And this is challenging. It is not easy for a large democracy like us, with a huge population, with huge requirement of job. However, I feel that last year when G20 was organized here in India, we did see our Prime Minister leading the discussion on environment, and he has been one of the biggest proponents of that. I personally feel that it is important that the knowledge that you do not compromise on growth if you go the sustainable way, that knowledge, that conversation, that conviction, that evidence has to come out more and more. There is enough evidence that if you resort to cleaner technologies, if you resort to cleaner and sustainable ways, if you conserve the forest, the benefit that you get out of it is immense. Time is important because, for a country like us, time is important, as time is crucial for climate change. I think personally that we really need to be realistic. We cannot stay in a bubble and say that climate change is not happening. The bubble has burst. We are all affected, irrespective of geographies. We have floods now in US. We're seeing raging fires all over. There is enough evidence. Nature is telling us that enough. And I think that the biggest challenge, and which we really need to yet see in India, is taking that bold step of putting sustainability, clean environment first before growth. It's a process. It will take time, but we need to risk it because, it's a crisis. We will either we have to go this way, or we lose everything. We lose the entire human race. I mean, enough scientific studies have come out saying that, we will be extincted. There will be no human race if we go this journey. So I think within India, there is an intent, huge intent by the government and the corporate sector and the civil society. But I think that we still have to take that bold step, which needs to come. And I will just one point on the role of women leaders. India has a very strong women movement, but we still lack presence in decision-making platforms. We really lack equal representation in important positions. And I think that is something that She Changes Climate, with its country network in India, will target and look at the entire national delegations that go for the COP, or even within the corporate sector. How can you really bring in more women leaders there, or look at climate finance and say, how much of it is actually going for women-led initiatives? So that is a lot of work needs to be done.
Yeah, I totally agree. I really like what you say. The bubble is burst now. It's time to less of studies and policy and discussion, but more action, because the time is now clicking. And you have touched a point in the last, you mentioned a really important point that I want really to ask. How we can, there is a lot of discussions and projects and meeting. I've been in so many conferences, empowering women, fostering rights, and all this. But then how we can, but still, I mean, we have done important steps. I mean, we need to recognize that we are not 200-300 years ago. It's also important that while we look at the problem of today, we also recognize the steps and the journey so far. However, how we can really foster a bit more, especially in the global south, in our global souths, how we can really empower more, what are also the key aspects and maybe the policies and the work that also as people we can do to really foster more change.
And this is exactly what She Changes Climate is aiming to do, to understand what is it that we need to do so that this journey, this process can be speeded up. One of the things that we feel is very important is investment, and we very strongly feel that the climate finance or investments have to go for women-led initiatives. And I'm just speaking from the cause that I work for, which is women leadership. And I think there is huge amount of funds available but not utilized. The fund flow system is really, really outdated. There are loopholes in that, and it's not about just creating a fund. It is about whether the money reaches those who need it. And there's a huge gap. And at last COP also, I felt it personally very, it's people get very happy when there is announcement of loss and damage fund. But it's not that this was the first time that there is some investment happening for climate finance. And there are examples all over the world, even within our country. How much of that money has been utilized? Where has it gone to? What are the processes that is stopping the money to reach those who need it? If we can clean that up, if we can speed that up, I personally feel that we will really, really be able to achieve a whole lot more. So that's one. So climate finance is important. Getting more investment is important, but disbursement and whether it reaches those who need it is the most important thing. Otherwise, all of it is just a waste. And second, I think that I personally feel that it's important in this journey to have some difficult conversations whom we as movement do not think they are our allies. For example, the corporate sector. I am an optimist, and I believe that if you can, even if you are able to even scratch a bit of those top leaders who are sitting in corporates, which are really responsible for the huge climate change that we have, the huge mess that we are in. Conversations with them, even if it comes to pressure, even if it comes, we have to do, even if it has to have a proactive conversation, we have to change them. They have to change. And I don't have a solution for that, because if we just remain in our silos and we talk with who are our allies, we are all thinking the same. But those who are really creating the mess, if we do not reach out to, if we are not able to crack a way to change them, I don't know how much we will be able to do that. And we have to do it through several ways: pressure, activism, proactive dialogues, consultations. I don't know. I think that is something very, very important that needs to be addressed and cracked.
Absolutely, because if we keep this, and this is, I think, one of the things of the sometimes of movements and the people. So you discuss with the circle and everybody is agreeing, but we really need to reach out and creating bridges rather than barriers and boundaries. This leads also to my subsequent questions, a bit more. It's a discussion that, and more I'm trying to reflect. Again, we're trying, even with this small podcast, to become bridges to people and reaching out messages. Because if you said correctly, if we work in silos and everybody is there, we will not get that momentum all together to bring. And especially in this era, we live in an era of polarization. So you are this or that without looking at the problem, but entrenched in the. So in this conflicting world that do you think there is still space for solving our common problem, and how we can do that?
I absolutely believe that there is space to solve the common problem. I am a firm believer in conversations and dialogue, creating a win-win situation for all. There are several instances that I can think of where attempts are made where you bring people from different stakeholders, organize multi-stakeholders dialogue, make them recognize and talk. One of the things, I have been part of several such multi-stakeholder consultations. One of the things that I feel is sometimes one world doesn't actually know the other world, what it looks like. And sometimes it is like you really come up with a statistic, you tell them this is what is happening in the ground, and then they say, really? So I think there is this, again, it comes to silos. If we really need to have conversations, bring different stakeholders who matter together and put everything, allow them to talk with each other. I have been part of several rescue of women and children who are trafficked and also sexually abused, particularly during migration that happens sometimes, most of the times because of climate change. You have floods and then you lose everything, and then children are taken out for labor and then most of the time sold for sex. During this, and one of the key role is the law enforcement agencies. They have a key role to play. And I've been part of several consultations with them, trying to understand their world, making them understand our world. And then you do find a way in between. You do find a way to change and work in a way that you're really going to, stop. Climate change, for example, is impacting everybody, every single person in this world. I think it is important that we have this conversation, that we bring people together, work out solution which is sustainable, clean, yet to win. And I have seen these things being cracked. Even in the whole thing of conflicts and wars that is happening across the world, I have a feeling that we need to talk. We need to get those influential women leaders together. We will come to one common desire of compassion and empathy. I'm a strong believer in compassion and empathy. And I think, therefore, that yes, it is possible. It is possible.
And I really think also if you bring more women to the table, maybe solution will come out faster rather than entrenched and fights. And because as we know, in wars, especially women and children are the one that's suffering more.
If you look at the peacekeeping mission members, very less women. I feel that if we have women members in these missions, when they are negotiating, we bring women. They have a very community, and they can express more compassion and empathy than the masculine energy. Actually, what we need is more of feminine energy than the masculine aggressive energy. It is not about men versus women. I sometimes feel it is about this energy of compassion, the energy of empathy, the energy of giving, the energy of nurture. And even men have that. So, I think that what the world requires today, particularly if you look around, whether it is climate change, whether it is war, whether it is conflicts, these are all very aggressive energies that determine, rule, dictate, decide. If we could change leadership into having more of the feminine energy, I think gender, whether man or woman, will not matter at the end. But I think we really need that feminine energy now, taking forward leadership in every sphere.
And it's really important, rather than aggressiveness, togetherness, and bringing people at the same table will make a long way, in solving the solution and the war. And as a last question, really an interesting, a lot of food for thought for our audience. As a last question, which maybe advice you may want to give to the people listening to us, especially women or girls, even we have a huge listenership also in the global south here in Africa and other areas. So what, as Mamta, you want to tell them and tell us?
I want to tell them, do not stop yourself. Do not stop yourself to take action, to lead, to voice out your opinion. Never, ever compromise your identity as a woman, and particularly to those women from the global south. I would say transform your vulnerability into your resilience, because that is what I have learned. Every vulnerability, every time I felt vulnerable, I recognized being resilient means. I recognize the power of resilience. And this is my message to all the women, all young, all, every woman out there in Global South. Do not compromise your identity, your dreams, your passion, and do not take a back seat because of your vulnerability. We are 51% of the population. We have equal rights to be there. Every single platform where decisions are being made. And just a general message, I think that climate action requires 100% of the population. And if you just engage with half the population, we will not be able to overcome this crisis. We need women. We need women in all their diversity, and we need them in climate negotiation, boardrooms, forests, fields, and especially, those areas which are hard hit by the ravages of climate change.
And thank you so much, ma'am. And it's really a powerful message, and really we hope to spread a lot the word. And this is also our way, bring people together to solve our common problems. And it was a real pleasure and honor hosting you. Thank you so much, Mamta, for your wisdom.
Thank you, Samuel. It was wonderful to have this conversation with you.
Are you satisfied after this wonderful episode? Let's continue together our sustainability journey.